Hello everyone, my name is Rik Van Bruggen from Neotechnology, and here I am in a beautiful London coffee shop recording a podcast with someone that I've been speaking to a lot in the past couple of days because we've been doing a little road trip through Europe about OpenCipher. That's Andrès Taylor. Hi Andrès.
Hi, Rick.
We're very good. Yeah, we've been on the road for the past 2 days, and yeah, it's been all about Cipher. It's been all about OpenCipher. But maybe before we dig into the OpenCipher topic, maybe we can just talk a little bit about Cipher itself. Could you tell us a little bit more about where it came from? How did you get into it? Where did it start? Just very briefly.
Sure. When I joined Neotechnology, we had two different languages that ran on our graph database. We had the core API and Gremlin, and with my background, SQL DBA, I felt that we needed something more declarative, more high level. So we started working on that as a Do What You Want Friday project for some time until we put it as part of the product, and it grew organically since. Yeah, and then today it's the primary API for Neo4j that we use.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, as you know, I'm a big fan of Cipher because it allows non-programmers like myself to use a graph database, right? Which is super important. And I think that's the power of declarative languages, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's one side, and the model itself is also. So original SQL was meant to have that power, that non-programmers should be able to write queries. But technology has moved on, and now we have even better tools, even higher level abstraction to work with. So yeah, it's very much meant to make the querying easier to understand, not just fast.
Yeah, and in Neo4j there's been a lot of work on Cipher, right? I mean, like you said, it was like a hobby project at first, but now it's like the primary API with a full-on infrastructure, planners, all of those types of things, right? What are some of the big components there?
So when we started, we built a heuristics planner, a rule planner, that has pretty simple rules saying, for example, if you find an index, use it. If you see this type of pattern, use this type of operator to solve it. Which is a great start, yeah. But a cost planner allows for even better plans to come out from the planner. Yeah. The cost planner uses statistics that we store about the data in your graph, so that when we're building a plan, we know, or we estimate, we guess that this is a better way of getting your data is starting from this index and then traversing this way instead of the other way around.
Yeah, that was a big change, right? Doing cost-based traversals rather than rule-based. I've seen that a lot, and there's more work on the way. I understand. You're doing work on more infrastructure components to make it better, faster, and stuff like that.
Yes. So today we have an interpreted runtime, which builds an object structure and has data flow between these objects when you run a query. So this is the execution plan side of things. What we're working on at the moment is compile runtime, which takes your query plan, your logical plan, and transforms that into a Java class with an execute method. Yeah. So when you're running your query, you're actually running a Java class.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's the next couple of versions, right? But one of the big things that's coming up, and that we've been announced last year at Graph Connect in San Francisco, is this whole new OpenCipher initiative. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? Where does it come from? What do we want to do with it? Who's working with it? Those types of things.
Right. So what we felt is that we want to grow the graph database space. We think that that's a critical factor. We don't want to have a bigger piece of that market. Instead, we want to grow the market. And to do that, we felt that we need a common language across graph databases, so that people, when they invest in learning this technology, they can take that investment and use it in other products and not feel like they're stuck using neo-technology stuff. So at Graph Connect, our big conference in San Francisco last year, we announced OpenCipher, which is a project that will open up the language to make it useful for database implementers, for tool vendors, and for any user that wants to get to the nitty-gritty technical details of.
So like rogue Vikings that want to build the next graph database, they could actually use it as well?
That's the plan. Yes.
That's the plan. Yeah. So what are some of the key components of OpenCipher? You know, what's in there?
What we're releasing is a grammar, so people can create a parser and know what valid syntax is and isn't. We are building a technology compliance kit, a TCK, which is an example-driven way of testing the implementation to see that it behaves the way it's supposed to behave. We're actually moving that out from our Neo4j repository to its own, so that we are going to use this TCK to validate Neo4j as a valid Cypher implementation. Yeah. We're also creating a reference implementation, which is sort of a way of showing how this is supposed to work. The TCK and the grammar are really useful and good starts, but it's not enough. So a reference implementation would show how you can actually build something like this and what the details mean. Mm-hmm. And lastly, we're working on a language specification, a natural language, semi-formal way of describing the expected behavior of the language.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, when I was at Graph Connect San Francisco, I saw some really big names on stage announcing their support. People like Databricks and Oracle, and is that, list expanding?
It is. We're working with many different companies at the moment, and there are also already tool vendors that have started using the deliverables from OpenCipher, such as IntelliJ plugins. And we see projects popping up all the time using our stuff now.
Really cool. Well, that should really help for that ambitious goal of creating that new language for graphs, right? So I think if anyone else wants to read up on it, they can go to opencipher.org, right? And absolutely also to the neo4j.com website to find more information. Find us on Twitter or wherever they wanna find more information. As you know, I want to keep these podcasts fairly short, so thank you so much for taking the time to come to a noisy coffee bar with me and talk about this lovely project. Thank you, Andrés.
Thank you so much for having me, Rik.
Cheers, bye.